Radio Romania International. You are listening to our one-hour broadcast in English for listeners in Western Europe on 7435 and 9540 kilohertz, and in Japan on 9790 and 11940 kilohertz. We can also be heard on the internet in WMA, MP3, and AAC Plus formats at www.rri.ro, Channel 1, and in Europe also via satellite Hotbird 6 on 1163 MHz. Vertical polarization, azimuth 13 degrees east. We wish you good reception conditions.
Radio Newsroom. Hello, dear friends, and welcome to a new program coming to you from Radio Romania International in Bucharest. I'm Daniel Beals at the microphone, inviting you to first stay tuned for the news, followed by our regular feature, Inside Romania. Now back to our program, here is the news. First, the main headlines. Romania's Environment Minister Rovana Plumb will pay a formal visit to Warsaw in preparation for the climate change conference in Doha. The Turkish army on Sunday shelled targets in neighboring Syria in retaliation for a mortar attack from Syria. And Greek director Georgios Georgopoulos' film Date&Time has scooped the grand prize of the 8th edition of Romania International Film Festival, ROIFF. Romanian Environment Minister Rovana Plumb on Monday will pay a formal visit to Warsaw for discussions with her counterparts of the Visegrad Group. The participants are expected to agree upon a common position before the conference on climate change in Doha, Qatar. Rovana Plumb will have talks with environment ministers from the Czech Republic, Hungary, Slovakia, Poland and Bulgaria. Between November the 26th and December the 7th, Doha will see the 18th conference of the parties of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change and the 8th session of the conference of the parties serving as the meeting of the parties to the Kyoto Protocol. In a fifth day of a border conflict, the Turkish army on Sunday shelled Syrian targets in retaliation for a Syrian mortar attack last week. Earlier, Turkey had deployed vehicles and a large number of troops at its border with Syria. Ankara says it doesn't want a war with Syria, but it won't hesitate to respond to any threat to national security. The Turkish parliament has authorized the army to launch military operations in the neighboring country. In Bucharest, Romanian Foreign Minister Titus Corlățean has underlined that Romania, in its capacity as a NATO member and in the spirit of the Romanian-Turkish strategic partnership, is supporting Turkey. Teodor Meleșcanu, director of the Romanian Intelligence Service, says his institution is closely monitoring the conflict between the two countries, as a tense situation in the region might have an impact on Romania. Greek director Georgios Georgopoulos' film Tungsten has scooped the grand prize of the 8th edition of Romania International Film Festival, ROIFF. According to the jury, the film is a good combination of direction, montage and acting performance. ROIFF is the only international film festival which from its early days has promoted productions from the Black Sea countries like Russia, the Republic of Moldova, Ukraine, Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Bulgaria, Turkey, Greece and Romania. Kenyan Felix Kangogo has won the 5th edition of Bucharest International Marathon, hosted by Romania's capital city on Sunday. The women's trophy went to Ethiopian athlete Almaz Nagende Fekade. The competition, which included a marathon race, a relay, a half marathon, a wheelchair race and a children's race, was attended by 7,000 athletes from 40 countries. And that was the news.
You are listening to Radio Romania International, broadcasting from Bucharest. friends, as I have accustomed you over the past few years, Radio Romania International invites you this year as well to take part in our Listeners' Day show, where traditionally your contributions play the key role. Europe is at a crossroads. Each of us has wondered, at least once, what direction the old continent will be taking. Is the motto, "No more wars in Europe," as powerful as it was at the beginning of the European integration process over 60 years ago? Will Europe continue to be a driving force of progress in the world? Will Europe be able to maintain its position as an economic power? Will it remain a continent of well-being? These are some of the questions that concern us and to which we are interested in hearing your answers. So in this year's Listeners' Day show, we invite you to tell us, what does Europe mean to you? Is it a continent with a rich history, with many tourist sites, impressive culture, diverse landscapes? Does it mean inventive people with courage and the thirst of adventure, or an aging continent whose population is past its golden days? Or maybe for you, Europe means something entirely different. We are looking forward to receiving your contributions by email at engl@rri.com, by fax at 004021319056, or why not by pre-recorded interviews. Radio Romania International's Listener Day will be celebrated on Sunday, November the 4th, 2012. And contributors will be rewarded with participation diplomas.
This is Bucharest, Radio Romania International. Inside Romania.
Anna Maria Popescu and Kalin Koțoiu. On September the 3rd, a best-selling Romanian daily paper started a campaign entitled "I'm a Museum, I Seek Visitors." Run by the National Museum Network in Romania, this is the first nationwide campaign aimed at promoting museums. Dragoș Neamu, director of the National Museum Network in Romania, enlarges on the origin of this idea.
Ideea mi-a venit răsfăind o revistă în Irlanda, un muzeu apărea pe
The idea occurred to me as I was browsing a magazine in Ireland. The first page carried the image of a museum as the most important piece of information. It was a campaign aimed at collecting objects that had belonged to World War II veterans. I realized that cultural objects could make it to the first page of a periodical as a sensitive and important subject. I thought we could do this in Romania by promoting collections of important museums.
Every day, except for the weekend, the first page of the popular Romanian daily paper introduces its readership to a Romanian museum item. For 58 days on end, an object representative for collections from 58 galleries and museums making up the National Museum Network comes to life and tells its story. This is believed to be an incentive for readers who visit the respective museums. Every object turns into a character which lures the visitor by giving them interesting or entertaining information. Dragoș Neamu explains.
Aceste obiecte au fost alese de fiecare muzeu în parte. Am lăsat la latitudine.
These objects were picked by each and every museum. We allowed them to select an item from among their most representative, making up the museum's collection. They were also free to come up with a text.
Dragoș Neamu says his favorite is the steam engine, which was presented on September the 6th.
M-a atras într-un mod particular acel locomobil al Muzeului Agriculturii din...
What most appealed to me was the steam engine from the Slobozia Museum. It claims it is old and went through a dramatic experience. It was almost dumped but saved, and it demonstrated its utility. It was used when a Romanian movie based on a great local classic was shot, so it is a sort of an actor. There is also a small trough used for storing cheese in the countryside, an old bed from Peleș Castle, and the Mother Goddess from the Eastern Carpathians Museum. That is a 6,000-year-old lady who played a major role in shaping society on the matriarchal model. I wish people would look at these items and change their view about them.
It is quite hard to resist the following description. I knew Romania's first king, Carol I, very well. We lived together in the palace castle in Sinaia. I belonged to Admiral Giovanni Andrea Doria, and I accompanied him in the most important battles. I welcome you to the castle where you can browse through memories. Visitors also receive a free ticket to the museum.
Fiecare om care vine la muzeu, să zicem că este ieșean și a apărut un obiect în colecție.
Any person who brings the newspaper issue to the museum can visit it for free. We can check the number of visitors in line with the newspaper sales. We also post pictures of the objects on Facebook and check for likes and comments. People are content, and there seems to be an increasing number of fans. Well, there was a bit over 100 views on September the 3rd. A week later, the profile saw more than 9,000 views. I haven't seen any negative feedback so far.
Every day, photos of the collection objects from the 58 Romanian museums travel across the internet and try to draw as many visitors as possible with their touching stories. I asked Dragoș Neamă whether this overexposure could have the opposite effect. Why would one visit a real museum in a world where access to art is mostly possible online?
Niciodată obiectul fizic nu poate fi substituit în spațiu virtual.
Orice virtual space can never replace the physical object. The reactions one has standing before an object are irreplaceable. Museum websites invite people on virtual tours, only to have them visit the museum itself.
The National Museum Network in Romania will soon launch a Facebook profile on the first stage of conceiving the future Romanian Communism Laboratory Museum. Works are underway to secure the logistics and develop the strategy to pull the public in Bucharest, Sibiu, Cluj, and Iași. That was Inside Romania. We remind you that you can also read this feature on our website at rri.ro.
This is Bucharest Radio Romania International. Romanian without tears. Hello and welcome to a new edition of Romanian Without Tears. Your hosts today are Călin Coțoiu and Doru Popovici. Today we'll take a look at what we need to know when we go to the doctor. Let's start off with some basic notions. Physician,
Medic,
clinic,
clinică,
hospital,
spital,
consultation,
consultație,
shot,
injecție,
tests,
analize,
nurse,
asistentă,
insurance,
asigurare,
condition,
afecțiune,
medicine,
medicament,
treatment,
tratament,
prescription.
rețetă.
Now let's see how we use these words in sentences. I am going to see my family physician for treatment.
Mă duc la medicul de familie pentru tratament.
I was called in for a consultation.
Am fost chemat la consultație.
If I have a serious condition, I am going to the hospital.
Dacă am o afecțiune gravă, mă duc la spital.
At the clinic, the nurse administers the shots.
La clinică, injecțiile le face asistenta.
My insurance doesn't cover this medicine.
Asigurarea mea nu acoperă acest medicament.
This prescription is for my treatment.
Această rețetă este pentru tratamentul meu.
I have to go to a different clinic for this kind of test.
Trebuie să merg la altă clinică pentru acest tip de test.
Great, now let's review some vocabulary. Physician,
Medic,
clinic,
clinică,
hospital,
spital,
consultation,
consultație,
shot,
injecție,
tests,
analize,
nurse,
asistentă,
insurance,
asigurare,
condition,
afecțiune,
medicine,
medicament,
treatment,
tratament,
prescription.
rețetă.
That is all for today. Tune in next time to learn more useful words and phrases in Romanian. From Călin Coțoiu
and Doru Popovici.
it's goodbye. You are listening to Radio Romania International.
Maria Popescu and
Daniel Bills.
your hosts for the next 15 minutes, inviting you to stay tuned as we lead through the letters and emails that we have received at the office this past week in a new edition of
Listener's Letterbox.
We have a lot to cover in this week's show. As you know, today we will be announcing the winner of the English Services Letter of the Month competition for September. We have quite a huge pile of letters and emails to quote from, some lovely music to listen to, and as you may have heard, we have a special announcement regarding this year's Listener's Day program. So we'll waste no time with the introduction and get down to business right away.
To begin with, here is the announcement we mentioned before. As we have accustomed you over the past few years, Radio Romania International invites you, this year as well, to take part in our Listener's Day show, where traditionally your contributions played a key role.
Europe is at a crossroads. Each of us has wondered at least once what direction the old continent will be taking. Is the motto "No more wars in Europe" as powerful as it was at the beginning of the European integration process over 60 years ago? Will Europe continue to be a driving force of progress in the world? Will Europe be able to maintain its position as an economic power? Will it remain a continent of well-being? These are some of the questions that concern us and to which we are interested in hearing your answers. So on this year's Listener's Day show, we invite you to tell us, what does Europe mean to you?
Is it a continent with a rich history, with many tourist sites, impressive culture, diverse landscapes? Does it mean inventive people with courage and a sense of adventure, or an aging continent whose population is past its golden days? Or maybe for you, Europe means something entirely different. We are looking forward to receiving your contributions by email at engl@rri.ro, by fax at 0040 21319 0562, or why not by pre-recorded interviews. Radio Romania International's Listener's Day will be celebrated on Sunday, November the 4th, 2012. All contributors will be rewarded with participation diplomas.
We are waiting for your contributions, but in the meantime, let's reward the best letter we received in the month of September. It's wonderful to be getting up on my DXing shortwave correspondence, and even more wonderful to be writing to my friends at Radio Romania International. Writes our old-time friend William Petalon III in the second letter he sent us in September, a letter which all of us here at the English service agreed that deserves to be chosen as the letter of the month of September. Bill's letter is packed with details on his life and work. He tells us about his great holiday at the Delaware shore, about the family anniversaries his family had this summer. He tells us he's a financial columnist for one of America's largest private publishers of investment newsletters. But, he adds,
becoming a father was the best thing I've done in my whole life. I'll never top it, no matter what else I do. Bill's appreciation for the small things that make life great, such as his kid's first day in kindergarten, or a day spent flying model airplanes with his father, is one of the reasons why we decided to reward his letter. The other reason is, of course, his style, which blends elegance with humor, making all his letters such an enjoyable reading, in spite of the handwriting that he complains about.
So, congratulations, Bill. A small prize will be reaching you in the coming weeks, and we are looking forward to receiving your letters in the future as well. Also, to answer your question about the name of the pianist on the Listener's Letterbox program on August the 31st, it was Dana Ciocarlie playing a fragment from a work called Romanian Dances by musician Bela Bartok.
Now, before the music break, let's quickly welcome some of the newcomers to our show. Mikiaki Oyama from Japan, a 51-year-old office worker, and Satnip Chaudhuri from India, and Anthony C. Tango, a police inspector from Covington, USA, who says he has recently returned to shortwave listening after being away from it for several years. I was impressed with RRI's program and format. Unquote.
Time for a little break now. Here is the Moldovan alternative rock band Atmosfera with a song called Northern Woman.
Listener's letterbox to acknowledge a message coming from Ian Stagg of England, who says, Dear Radio Romania International, I am enclosing 2 reports of recent listening. I have not written for a few weeks due to some health problems involving tests, scans and examinations. This has been unsettling, but I have tried to continue listening. Treatment is now started and the situation is easier. I have been interested to hear about your salt mines. My area of Cheshire has salt workshops and a chemical industry based on salt. Before I finished work, I was employed as a chemical technician and later in salt extraction. I would be very pleased to receive a QSL card to verify my reports. Yours sincerely, Ian Stagg.
Ian, we're glad to hear your health is improving. I didn't know Cheshire had a salt industry, but I can only be happy to hear that the show was of interest to you.
We stay in England to greet Grant Skinner as well. He wrote in to say,
"The programs of Radio Romania International are a good choice for those looking for information, news, and those interested in culture. Your station helps me immensely to build up my knowledge on your country."
Thank you, Grant. We appreciate your message, and it seems your opinion is confirmed by many other listeners of Radio Romania International. Here is, for example, an email from Van Wilshire, a 55-year-old pilot from West Harrison, USA.
"Thank you for your very interesting programming, which I often enjoy in the evenings. Much of what I know about your country I have learned through your shortwave broadcasts. I hope to visit someday on holiday. Please pass my appreciation along to your staff. You all do a wonderful job," says Van Wilshire from the USA. Thank you so much, Van. This is very nice to hear, and we hope you'll only have good things to say about our programs in the future as well. But I wouldn't like to leave the UK just yet, at least not before we greet Ian Evans, who says,
"Hello, Radio Romania International. I often listen to you at 11 o'clock UTC before I go to work. I continue to enjoy your programs, and I think choosing a best letter of the month from your letterbox program is a great idea. I look forward to hearing the winning letter."
"Hello, Ian. It's good to hear from you. If you have listened at the beginning of our show, you should know by now that the winner of our September Letter of the Month competition is William Patalon from Baltimore, USA.
And here is one last message from Britain. Roger Tidy from London says, "This is just a short message to say that I enjoyed listening to the interview with the Irishman, Mr. Hurley, on the Sunday studio program today, including the beautiful atmospheric music from Maramuresh. I also enjoyed the item broadcast 7 days ago in Traveler's Guide about your salt mine spas. Unfortunately, I've not been able to write to you in the last few months, but I am still a frequent listener to your programs. You are doing a good job in projecting the life and culture of Romania to the rest of the world. Best wishes, Roger Tidy." Thanks a lot, Roger, for the kind words. We still have a lot of messages to acknowledge. However, time is running out, so I think we'll give them to the next week's show.
Thank you very much for writing to us and, more importantly, for listening to our broadcasts and making our work here at Radio Romania International's English service worthwhile. Join us again next week to get in touch with fellow shortwave listeners from around the world. Until then, your host, Ana Maria Popescu
And Daniel Bilge,
leaving with the piece from a listener George Enescu work called Serenade for Piano, Violin and Cello. Performing on the violin is Șerban Lupu. tuned to Bucharest Radio Romania International. Living Romania. Hello and welcome to a new installment in the Living Romania series with me, Latomera Simeon. In the next 6 minutes, I invite you to stay tuned for some topical events that have made headlines in Romania of late. Don't go away. Romania ranked 5th in the EU at the IT International Olympiads this year. The Romanian students won 3 golden medals and 1 bronze. Adrian Ludo and Alexandru Gavrila from Bucharest and Darius Buhar from Bistrița won gold, while Ștefan Voroneanu from Ploiești won bronze. The IT Olympiad was hosted by Italy between September 23rd and 30th. There were 304 participants from 76 countries. The first international IT Olympiad took place in 1989 in Bulgaria. At world level, first ranking in the 2012 IT Olympiad is Johnny Ho from the US, who got the maximum number of points in all tests. Second came Gennady Korotkevich from Belarus, and third, Yushu Gu from China. Darius Buhai, a 9th grader at the Liviu National College in Bistrița, also won gold at this year's Balkan IT Olympiad, and another gold medal at the Tuimada International Multidisciplinary Olympiad in Russia. He told the Mediapax news agency that he became fond of this subject matter since he started studying it in school. He confessed that before any contest, he works daily, around 5 hours a day, trying to solve problems that are usually part of the Olympiad tests. Romania reports the most serious tuberculosis-related problems across the EU. 4 deaths and 77 new cases are reported daily in Romania. The same alarming situation can be found in the Russian Federation, Turkey, and Kazakhstan. All these countries generating almost 3/4 of the tuberculosis patients in the Eurasian area. What is alarming in Romania is not only the incidence of the disease, but also the small percentage of cases that are treated, especially when it comes to multi-drug resistant tuberculosis. 1 year after the setting up of an international action plan for the European region by the World Health Organization, Bucharest launched a national program for the prevention of and fight against tuberculosis. Some data show that in Romania, the number of cases of multi-drug-resistant tuberculosis is decreasing. But outgoing Health Minister Vasile Topoi pointed out that it's actually a drop in the capacity to diagnose these cases, their number being even higher. He underscored that the plan would be implemented over a period of 4 years with a budget of 23 million euros. Vasile Topoi. We intend to open 7 centers for the identification, treatment, and monitoring of tuberculosis patients, and their activity will probably start on January 1st. The antibiotics factory in Iași produces the medicines we need, but to ensure the necessary amount, we'll organize a nationwide tender to get the best price and ensure the necessary amount of medicines. The next year's budget being built on the principle of increased financial and medical risk. The European Health Commissioner, John Dalli, congratulated the Romanian authorities for the measures taken to improve the population's health state and pointed out that multi-drug-resistant tuberculosis affects a large number of people in the disadvantaged categories. He reminded that 30% of the multi-drug-resistant tuberculosis patients come from Romania. The Urology and Renal Transplant Institute in Cluj-Napoca and the Genitourinary Diseases Society, with the support of the company Novartis Romania, organized in the western city of Cluj-Napoca a Transplant Thanksgiving Day, the first event in Romania devoted to brain dead donors. those who give a birth to life to many sufferers. The initiative belongs to the head of the Urology and Renal Transplant Institute in Cluj-Napoca, Professor Mihai Lucan, MD, who in almost 20 years since the first kidney transplant in Romania can say that he changed and even saved the lives of more than 1,000 people. These people had a chance to receive a kidney from a donor, most of the times from a brain-dead donor. The event paid homage to those donors, being also an opportunity to thank the families of these donors who, despite their grief, had the power and generosity to think of other people's sufferings and lives. The history of transplants in Romania is marked by two events. The first transplant made in 1980 by Professor Eugeniu Proca, MD, and the 1992 renal transplant European program initiated in Cluj-Napoca by Professor Mihai Lucan, MD. And that was all from Living Romania. From me, Lăcrămeara Siani, it's goodbye now.
You are listening to Radio Romania International. Coming up next, Practical Guide. We begin by noting that citizens of the European Union, the European Economic Area, and the Swiss Confederation have automatic access to all forms and stages of Romanian education under the same conditions and are subject to the same fee as Romanian citizens. Candidates from these countries can submit applications accompanied by a document of recognition of previous studies directly to the university they wish to study at. Recognition of previous studies is made in accomplice with the National Center of Diploma Recognition and Equivalency, part of the Romanian Education Ministry, found online at www.edu.ro. The website also offers information on qualified higher learning institutions. For tuition in languages other than Romanian, admission will include testing on the candidate's language skills. Candidates who are accepted for paid tuition may subsequently apply for free tuition, granted under the same conditions as to Romanian students, that is, based on their results at the university. The Romanian Education Ministry has recently developed a methodology for admitting students from third countries to the Romanian state and private education systems for the 2012-2013 school year. According to this document, citizens from countries outside the EU can apply for tuition in Romania pending proof of citizenship of their respective home country and the required educational skills. Before receiving a student visa, applicants must show proof that they have been admitted into an institution of higher learning. Specific requirements can include aptitude tests for arts, sports, and architecture school applicants. Citizens of third countries can enroll in the Romanian higher education system after graduating from preparatory Romanian language courses. Preparatory classes also include specific aptitude-oriented preparation and take 1 year for bachelor studies and at least 6 months for postgraduate programs. We remind that some 12,000 students from third countries are currently studying in Romania. That was all from Practical Guide. This is Bucharest, Radio Romania International. Guests on Radio Romania International. Welcome, I'm Daniel Biltz. Today's guest is Felicia Araceanu, the director of the Cultural Center in Turda. The institution was created in 1929, consisting of different departments for music, fine arts, and traditional culture, as well as an arts and crafts university. Felicia Araceanu has a degree in philology and another in fine arts, and has been working for the center for the last 31 years. We asked her to tell us more about the activity of the center.
În cadrul Universității Populare sunt cursuri pe bază de... The Arts and Crafts University offers paid courses for professional reconversion and training.
The university is affiliated to the Association of Arts and Crafts Universities in Romania. As a member of this association, we have opened the Turda Cultural Spring Festival for 7 years in a row. In the 8th year, we worked together with the Tudor Jarda Traditional Art School in Cluj-Napoca, which 2 years ago opened a branch in Turda offering traditional and pop music singing classes. Last year, we also created a painting and traditional dance department. Young people no longer need to travel all the way to Cluj to attend these classes because we can provide them here in Turda. The activities we organize together with the Traditional Art School in Cluj help young people develop their talent.
Traditional music is well represented in the area. 2 ensembles in particular have been promoting local traditions and music at many national and international festivals.
La departamentul muzică, foarte mulți copii, peste 150, sunt cuprinși în 8
In the music department, over 150 children and teenagers aged between 4 and 18 are grouped in 8 bands according to age groups. All of them are taking part in music contests for children and youth. There is also the Cultural Center's choir, who performs abroad at the invitation of cultural centers or churches, given that its conductor is Father Sebastian Zahan, who can promote this choir through religious channels. Both laic and religious songs make up their repertoire so that they can easily participate in the Mass. Last year, we were warmly received by the Romanian Church in Prague. Every year, they take part in at least one event held abroad.
The Cultural Center in Turda hosted between May the 15th and June the 15th a free painting course. Felicia Răcean has details.
Am avut 60 de participanți și am finalizat acest curs gratuit cu o expo.
We had over 60 participants in the painting course that ended with an exhibition at the Tourist Information Center in Turda. We have recently ended the first edition of the Salinat Painting Camp, aimed at promoting the salt mine through art. Representatives of 7 counties joined us on the camp. The exhibits will be on display for 1 month. They describe the salt mine, the town's civic center, and the Roman fortress. Participants visited the History Museum, Mihai Viteazu's tomb, and Turda's gorges, which means that Turda has a lot to offer and it can do that by means of art.
Between August the 31st and September 2nd, the town of Arieș played host to the 12th edition of Turda's Days, celebrated for 3 days with cultural events, exhibitions, contests and music. You have been listening to guests on Radio Romania International.
Listening to Radio Romania International. Coming up in this program, All About Jazz. Welcome to All That Jazz with me, Vlad Palcu. This edition features jazz vocalist Luiza Zan. A special presence on Romanian jazz scene, Luiza Zan is a jazz vocalist, composer and professor. Here she is with an old Romanian song by Anton Var, arranged by Nicolas Simion, and performed together with guitarist Sorin Romanescu.
1980, into a family with musical traditions, Louisa Zahn started her career when she was only 4 years of age in a contest for preschool children. In 2004, she impressed the jury of the Golden Stag International Pop Music Festival. She participated in jazz competitions where she won many awards, the most important ones including the Montreux Jazz Festival 2 years in a row, which gave her the chance to perform with great jazz musicians like pianist Jerry Allen, double bass player Bob Hurst, and drummers Eric Harland and Omar Hakim. Listen to Louisa Zahn performing a jazz cut with guitarist Sorin Romanescu. Louisa Zahn has collaborated with many Romanian jazz musicians like Mircea Tiberyan, Romeo Cosma, Sorin Romanescu and others. We end all that jazz today with One Last Cut, Thinking of Bartok by Nicola Simeon, performed by Louisa Zahn, tenor sax player Nicola Simeon and guitarist Sorin Romanescu.
our broadcast in English for listeners in Western Europe and Japan has come to an end. You can listen to our next program for Western Europe tomorrow at 5:30 hours UTC on 9700 kHz in analog system and 11875 kHz in the DRM system. Listeners in Japan can listen to our next program tomorrow at 22 hours UTC on 9790 kHz and 11940 kHz. We can also be heard on the internet in WMA, MP3, and AAC Plus formats at www.rri.ro channel 1 and in Europe via satellite Hotbird 6 on 1163 MHz. Vertical polarization, azimuth 13 degrees east. If you have any comments or suggestions, please write an email at engl@rri.ro. Goodbye.